Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 91. Hi, I'm Jill. Thanks for joining us today.
And I'm Chris. Jill and I are your hosts for this podcast and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community.
We named our group Becoming Ellie because Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match. Chris and I were inspired to be more like Ellie, fit and strong.
You can find out more about the Becoming Ellie community and this podcast at our website, becomingellie.com. Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I.
Be sure to sign up for our newsletter while you're there. That way you'll know about new episodes and anything else that's new in our world.
I think our listeners are really going to enjoy today's episode. We're talking to Shawn Tegtmeier about her transformation from being a couch potato and also about overcoming a cancer diagnosis.
Yes, she is an interesting woman and gives us lots of information. Let's go to the podcast.
Shawn Tegtmeier is a former chain-smoking couch potato, now a full-time personal trainer with several certifications and a published author. Her book, Running with Walt, was published in 2019, and she currently is at work on her second book.
Shawn lives in the Chicago area with her husband and 2 dogs. In her off time, she enjoys running, reading, putzing around the yard, and simply enjoying time with her 2 adult sons. Welcome, Shawn. We're so happy to have you join us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Jill and Chris. I'm super excited to be here. I'm so happy you asked.
That's great. Thanks so much. Let's just jump right in, okay? Why don't you tell us why you decided to make changes in your life? Was there something that happened or?
Well, I was working and, I hadn't gone to college or anything. And I was a very avid smoker. I was really good at it. And one day I realized, it was so odd. I realized I smelled like a dirty ashtray. Now, after smoking for half of my life, it's kind of odd that I suddenly could smell myself. So I eventually quit smoking with the help of hypnosis. I was able to quit. After I quit smoking, which was probably the hardest thing I've ever done, I realized, well, if I could do that, I could probably do something else. I was at a job that I found, a little bit on the boring side, just kind of going to work, doing a little bit of office work, coming home, going to soccer practice. I just felt like there was probably more that I could be doing. So I kind of started taking some classes at our community college, ended up getting a degree in computer science. My brain doesn't work that way. I'm not a computer person. I'm more like puppies, rainbows, and ice cream cones, not anything computery. So that was a stretch. But during this time, I had, after I quit smoking, I had gained a lot of weight. And I didn't realize it until, you saw yourself in a picture, maybe from the back. And you're like, oh my gosh, I think that's me.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to WeightWatchers. I had never done any form of real exercise in my life. And I kind of started walking. And my friend Walt, that's who inspired me. He had started running and would talk about running. And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Nobody wants to hear it, but it kind of planted some seeds in my brain. And I thought I would try a little bit of running because I had been losing some of the weight and I thought, oh, I could maybe. And initially it was really hard. It was really, really hard, but I just kind of kept going. I kept running and I thought, gosh, I need to learn more about this. So I went back to the community college and started taking classes on exercise science simply for my own knowledge. Because at this point, I was almost 40 at this point. I was in my early 40s and I thought, well, I'm not going to do anything with this. I have a nice little job, that's just great. I'm just going to stay here. I would go to the classes and they're like, who's here to be a personal trainer? And I'm like, not me, But I was in like a group where they kind of, you go one class after the next, not realizing I was in this thing to kind of get myself ready for a national certification.
So you got into the personal training track without even realizing it.
Exactly. I had no idea that I just wanted to learn a little bit more about eating and stretching and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably about 2 or 3 years. And I thought, I think I could maybe do this a little bit part-time on the side. It would be kind of fun. Because in my head, and I think with a lot of people, you think personal trainer and you think somebody that's tan and tattooed and 20 years old and have been doing this stuff. I'm like, who's going to want an old 40-year-old lady being their trainer? That was 15 some years ago now. I did start training part-time and I actually got so busy. I quit my other full-time job.
Wow.
In the office, and I've been doing it ever since. I love it. I also work at a specialty shoe store we have in town. It's called the Running Depot. Runners, walkers, standing around all day. We don't care what you do, but we find that your feet are very important. You've got to have the proper shoes on. So, but I do run running programs out of there too. We just finished our half marathon program. So we had people run their first half marathon after training all summer. It's just a lot of fun, to get together with people that don't think they can run. Like one guy, for instance, he signed up for our 5-mile training group and he said he got there because he thought, okay, I could do this. I could do this. I really need to start doing something. He signed up for the 5-mile group and he got there. He goes, oh my gosh, I thought this was a 5K group.
That reminds me of when Jill and I signed up for one of our first races together. We did the same thing. We thought, or at least I thought.
We both did.
Yeah, like a 5K, which is 3 miles or 3.1 miles. And next thing you know, oh my gosh, this race is actually 5 miles. So we had to do some training for it. It wasn't just go out and run,
Yeah.
Because we were kind of at the 5K point at that stage when we signed up.
Right.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
All right. So you said that really what got you into starting was quitting smoking. Yeah. Tell us how you managed to quit smoking, because you said it was the hardest thing you've ever done. I used to smoke. It is extremely difficult, I know. Mm-hmm. And I certainly associate with realizing, for me, it was later that I walked around smelling like an ashtray. Tell us about how you managed to quit.
Well, after I realized I smell like an ashtray, of course, the first thing I did was light up a cigarette after that, of course, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, I have to stop this. And I remember I would just be smoking and I would look at the cigarette and I'm like, I literally hate your little teeny tiny nicotine guts, but I'm going to keep smoking you. I went back in the day. I mean, it's so funny now because I'm thinking that was only like 15, 20 years ago. You had a newspaper, right? And that's how everybody found information. We certainly had nothing like this online or anything. And there was a big ad in the paper that there was going to be a hypnosis clinic at one of the places in downtown here. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. Let's go and try this, So I was with hypnosis, was able to quit. Like they would have you think of really disgusting, horrible things that were associated with smoking. They're like, think of the most vile thing you can, the most disgusting. And then they gave us rubber bands. So they said, every time you feel like smoking, snap this rubber band. Okay. I don't know how many rubber bands I went through and how many welts I had on my wrists, but it was just really hard to quit. But I eventually did. And it's funny, a bunch of us had my old high school girlfriends and we went out to dinner a few nights ago and we were talking about quitting smoking and stuff. And a couple of them are like, I still feel that urge, and they said, do you feel that urge? And I said, no, I honestly don't. The smell of cigarettes really kind of makes me really sick now.
I said that just this past weekend to my brother, and he looked at me like I was crazy, but I said, I really cannot stand the smell of cigarettes.
Yeah, it's...
Well, when you had hypnosis, did you go for one session or were there several sessions?
No, it was one session. It was this like little company came into town and they were guaranteed, they guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
My husband didn't quit. He went with me, but he's like, oh, nobody can hypnotize me.
So you quit smoking while your husband was still smoking?
Yes.
That hats off. That's hard. That's like super hard.
That was really hard. And I mean, he was really good about it. He would try to smoke away from me. And then, you have all your habits with, like, I would get up in the morning and I'd park on the couch and I'd have like a pot of coffee and a half a pack of cigarettes for breakfast. And then, I'd hop in the shower and then hop in the car and smoke a few cigarettes on my way to work.
Different habits that you had in conjunction with a bad habit.
So I had to, like, instead of getting up, I'd get up where I had just enough time to get ready for work,
Okay.
So I didn't have that time for my coffee and cigarettes in the morning.
So you changed your coffee time.
Yep.
You just got rid of that whole process.
Yeah.
But what about driving to work? How'd you deal with that?
Oh my gosh. I was just like, I did a lot of suckers, like Tootsie Pops and stuff, So I did that, like just different mouth fetishes and stuff and chewing on straws, which I know isn't good for your teeth, but it was hard. And then I would go to bed earlier because I'd be, smoke after dinner and stuff. So I had to kind of change like my schedule.
Yeah. When I lost weight, I found that I had to do some of those same changes. Like, I was in a fast food habit because life was busy and all those things. And I had to go cold turkey, no more fast food. Mm-hmm. You get into a routine. And when you do this, you do that, you do this. And then the third thing would lead you to the bad habit. So when you lost weight, you don't have to answer, but how much weight did you lose? And then how do you maintain the weight loss?
I gained like about 40 or 50 pounds over like 3 years. And it creeps on so quietly. All of a sudden, oh my God, they're making the clothes smaller these days. Ooh, the camera's adding more than 10 pounds, So I lost it. And I got down to my goal weight for WeightWatchers. I had started running at that time.
Okay.
Even though that was so many years ago, I always have WeightWatchers in the back of my mind.
Okay. Do you still count points and track?
For a while, I did hop back on their program because it was when I had done it, they had this little sliding ruler thing and stuff, it was like
back in the dark ages before they had smartphones.
Yeah, smartphones and scanning barcodes. And being a trainer, of course, one of the very common questions is, I can't lose any weight. What am I going to do? I can offer very general advice on it, but I'm not comfortable doing it because I'm not a dietitian.
Sure.
I couldn't tell you, Chris, or you, Jill, well, you need to eat this and you need to eat that because I don't know that. I know what works for me. So I would always guide people. I usually tend to guide my clients and whatnot to WeightWatchers. So I hopped back on their program recently, just more for knowledge so I could correctly give them information on how the program worked and stuff like that.
So how do you maintain after you hit your goal? Is it running?
I think it's running and just being conscious. I do have some problems like with cookies. And I always say all movement is good movement. And that's something a lot of people don't realize, especially when we're up in our 50s now, and people are like, well, nope, too late for me. I can't do any of this. It's like, no, it's not too late. It's never, ever too late to start. And even if you're just going to go if you can walk down your driveway, any kind of movement, if you can do little push-ups on the wall, if you can just stand up and sit down, if you can just sit in your chair and march, depending on, you know, what your abilities are. Any movement is good. You don't have to go and run a 5K like you ladies do, right?
So you do the running. What else do you do besides running, fitness-wise, I mean?
Well, I like to bike a little bit, not a whole lot. I like to bike, but I'm more of like, I call it Mary Poppins bike rider. You know what I mean?
Sure. Like, casual. Yeah. Do you have a basket on your bike?
I would love a basket on my bike.
Oh, yeah. I would too, with a bell.
With a bell. I know. I keep thinking I got to get a bell. I got my little mirror, but I need a little bell. But I like just walking, just hiking, just walking. Either like my friends and I, we like to go walk around the lake and stuff like that. And then I try to like maybe twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. I try to do like a little exercise. Like I'll just throw on YouTube down here and do whatever I feel like doing that day. If it's like a cardio section or a strength training section, but like I try to do 2 days a week of some sort of strength training, half an hour, nothing outlandish.
Yeah. Strength training. Your personal training. Do you work at a gym or how do you do that?
I was at a gym for 13 years and I kind of like COVID kind of threw everything off.
Yeah.
I kind of went out. I'm out on my own a little bit now. And a friend of mine, she has a physical therapy clinic. And she said, well, you can come over here. And it's nice. It's got a nice big area. She's got all the equipment that I need because I'm not into let's bench press 350 pounds, let's take these 10-pound dumbbells and we'll do some rows, we'll hop up on the Bosu. That's more my speed. And then I do a little bit of in-home. And then I do a lot of the Zooming. I've got like 5 people that are on Zoom.
Shawn, tell me, what motivates you to stay fit and healthy? I know you've said it's not the number on the scale or the race finish times. What motivates you? I just like feeling good. Feeling a sense of accomplishment if I cross a finish line. And I think that, I don't really know how I've been motivated to do this stuff, to tell you the truth, which I know is a crazy thing. But I guess when I think back to my first, 40 years of life before I started really doing anything, this is just so much more enjoyable. You meet so many people and it's just fun. We'll be running through Crystal Lake. We're like, hey, how's it going? Hey, what's going on? Hey, this, hey, that. And then also, I think on a side note, in 2016, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is bone marrow cancer.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So 2016 kind of turned into like a little bit of a mess, So I had a stem cell transplant and, lost my hair and was totally it took me a while to get back. And then in 2018, 17, I was kind of trying to get everything back together again and stuff. And then in 2018, it reared its ugly little head again.
Oh my. So
I was on a different program than, I call them programs, plans. I was plan A, that failed. Now we're on plan B. I just think, here I am. I know people I feel like my whole town knows me, which is kind of crazy, but they're like, oh my gosh, we read your book and this and that. And I'm like, okay, good.
You're a celebrity.
Yeah. Like this little mini, I know people are like, you're like a celebrity. I'm like, whatever. But, I just feel so grateful that I will always have cancer. I won't die from it, but I'll die with it. So I'm in treatment still. I go every 28 days and sit for my little chemo drip for 4 or 5 hours. And I take a little chemo pill. But I'm like, I'm just so fortunate to be able to do this stuff, even though I have this stupid health thing.
This has actually sort of become a chronic condition for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think, I think about people that literally can't get out of bed. I mean, for whatever reason, whatever horrible thing they have. And I think, those of us that do have the ability to move, we should take advantage of that, and be grateful.
So that's basically 3 years at least that you were dealing with significant health issues.
Yeah.
That had to be very hard to come back to resume running. I assume you weren't really running while you were going through chemo.
That's correct.
So goes back to the motivation, I guess. How did you get motivated to resume running, and how did you get back into that?
I want to say running kind of called me back, which I know that kind of sounds funny, but I remember when I was, when I got done and I was able to walk a little bit more, and like I would walk every day. I remember like when I first got home from the hospital, I was walking around the block and I was like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. And I remember I was walking one of my dogs and my one neighbor came running out. She's like, oh, and she's standing there talking to me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. She goes, I got to get home. I got to get home. I'm so exhausted. But, my walks every day, I would get a little bit longer, and I would often see people running, that I knew, and they'd be like, hey, and I'm like, hey, and you know what? And it was, my body would just go, yeah, you can't do that right now. And I'm like, I know. And then one day I was out for a walk, and I can't remember exactly when it was, but my body said, I think you could try a little bit of running now. Just.
So you listen to your body. You do.
Yeah, I really do. I really do. Yeah. And that is, I get kind of mad at people sometimes when they don't listen to their bodies, because I'm like, hey, I can't carry you where you need to be if you fall apart now. We're just going to walk now, or whatever it takes. Yeah. When people, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you really have to listen to your body. And my body just likes to run. It's not a fast runner, but it just likes the motion, and it makes me happy.
Do your dogs run with you?
Yes. I have them on Wastebelt.
Oh, so you run with them both at the same time?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
They must be well trained, because I just pictured the dogs going in 2 different directions. You like got in the middle, the bigger dog pulling everyone along, Well, at first I thought Walt, and the name of the book that you have is Running with Walt. I thought Walt was your dog, but that's not the case.
No,
is that right?
No, that's correct.
So who is Walt?
Walt is the one, his oldest son and my oldest son, the boys are both 32 going on 33 now. But when they were like 12, they were on the same soccer team. We were on the same travel soccer team. And, if you guys have ever been involved with a travel team.
Oh, yeah.
Spend every single weekend with the same families, and you all get, where are we going?
It becomes into a big family.
A big family. And Walt had started this thing called running. Anytime you do something new, especially like runners, ooh, did you know this? Did you know that? Did you know this? Walt's wife, Laura, she's like, I can't listen to this anymore. And so Walt would be like telling.
He was very excited about running.
Very excited about running. Nobody else was. And so he would talk to me, and I'd be like, oh, okay. I was too polite to not listen. I would just smile and nod and go,
The next thing you know, you're buying very expensive shoes.
Right. Exactly. So I think it kind of planted a seed in my head. So I did try to start running, and, I started running. I enjoyed it, and I started going to school, and I did an internship through that running store now that I now work at all these years later. And we created a half marathon program for my internship. People were like, oh my God, you used to smoke and this and that. I'm like, yeah. And I think it was Walt that said, oh, you just got to write a book about yourself, Shawn. You've just got to write a book about it. And I said, yeah. One of these days I will. And I'm going to call it Running with Walt. And he goes, okay, you let me know when we're going on book signing tours. So we have gone on book signings together. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, it sounds like you know how to make exercise fun by running with your dogs and by using a stopwatch for counting reps and things like that. Do you have any other tips of how to make exercise fun for those of us that maybe they can't just fall off a log like you just sort of fell into it, it sounds like.
Right.
Yeah. Do you have any other tips?
One thing I would say is my clients range from 18 to 94, you know, so there's a big age range in there. And the one thing that I find is that have to like what they're doing. If somebody starts like a program that they don't like, they're not going to do it again. I mean, you could do like lifting exercises. You could do like a dancing. Some people might like the Zumba classes, step classes. Somebody might just like biking. You have to find something you like, and it doesn't have to be, a traditional exercise. Kayaking or paddleboarding or walking or, just find some kind of movement that you enjoy. Because I think people think exercise, oh my God, now I have to do push-ups. You don't have to. You just have to do something that you're going to enjoy.
Yeah, thank you. That's great to know. Yeah, when you find something you like, it's not work, is it?
No, it's not like exercise,
Yeah. Obviously, our listeners are mostly women over the age of 50 who are interested in being fit and strong. What advice do you have for any of us who are looking to get healthier?
Try, kind of like take maybe a little survey of maybe a day or two of yourself and just jot down like little things like maybe how much water you drink, what you're eating during the day, and like what activities you're doing during the day. If you write down, well, I ate a box of Twinkies and sat on the couch and watched, Netflix all day. Well, there might be a little room for improvement there. Not that I'm a Netflix fan myself, I gotta tell you. Think just like small things like maybe I could increase my water intake, or how much sleep are you getting? Because I find that like hydration and sleep.
Well, I'm with you on the sleep too. The sleep I find is like the number one thing for me. Yeah. If I don't get enough sleep, man, I can't do anything right.
I know you have to do it. Just kind of get a little snapshot of yourself during the day and what little improvements, because you can't, like people are like, I always found like at the gym, people would come into the gym and they would start like these crazy, I'm going to ride this elliptical for an hour, and then like after 3 weeks, they'd come up and they're like, well, I haven't lost any weight. And I'm like, okay, so what are you doing?
I thought you were going to say after 3 minutes, there's like, well, forget that program.
Well, that's it. They're like 3 weeks. I haven't lost anything. And I'm like, okay, so what are you eating? And they're like, well, nothing. And I'm like, okay, so you don't fuel up before you come in, you ride this thing. Then what do you eat after that? Like a half of a banana. You're basically starving your body at this point. You can't go from eating at whatever and not exercising to exercising and not eating at all. It's not a good plan.
So drastic changes aren't good, huh?
So too little changes. And we have to fuel our bodies. It's very important to fuel our bodies because people think, well, I'm exercising now. So, calories in, the more calories I get out, the less I need to take in to lose weight, which is okay to a point. But if we're doing activities, we need to really fuel our bodies. Otherwise, your bodies are not going to work. It's going to hang on to every little calorie you have. That would be another thing to kind of monitor.
Yeah, our bodies are good at hanging on to every little calorie.
I know, right?
Yeah. What role does exercise have to do with our mental health.
Oh my gosh, like I can solve the world's problems when I'm running. You know, I really think that exercise, there's something to be said for like, you know, people talk about endorphins, getting a good sweat, and just, you know, I have people that come in and they've had a bad day at work or whatever. And I just look at them and I'm like, all right, we're going to be doing some ball slams today, you know, which is, you know, you just take one of those heavy balls and you just slam it down and just slam it down. It just releases endorphins. You just feel better. And I know like when sometimes like for running for me does it and other people it's biking and swimming or working out or going to a Zumba class or whatever. Our bodies are meant to be, we were built to move. You know, we are not built to be sedentary creatures. I just think that the more exercise you get, it's such good therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Definitely. I know you said you used WeightWatchers for losing weight, but do you eat in a particular way now? You know, like do you avoid anything or focus on anything?
I always try to mix. And I've got dietitian friends that they say this too. I always try to mix a carb and a protein together. Like some people will say, well, I had an apple for a snack. Okay, that's great that you're eating an apple, but you want to really throw in a little bit of protein with it because your carb there, your apple's going to kind of fuel you. And then your protein's going to kind of fill you up. Like have an apple with maybe a little scoop of peanut butter or a little bit of cheese, things like that. One of my favorite things to eat are egg sandwiches, you know, like on an English muffin, egg, maybe a little piece of cheese, and maybe Canadian bacon. If you throw in an avocado, it's just the best.
Wow. So like a fried egg.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's just a little fried egg, a little scrambled egg. You can make a scrambled egg in the microwave in a bowl, you know. You just take a cereal bowl and.
Really? I've never made scrambled eggs in the microwave.
I know. I know. I couldn't believe it when I heard it several years ago.
There's two things about eggs in the microwave. Mm-hmm. One is when you make it in your bowl, if you're not careful, it'll really stick on in that bowl and it's hard to wash.
Right. Pam.
Yeah. You have to Pam it. And the other thing is, if you don't scramble it and you leave the egg whole, it heats irregularly and it kind of explodes. These are two things because I have regularly microwaved eggs, but I noticed there's some issues if you don't do those two things. You
gotta be careful.
Okay, so better for scrambling.
Yeah, you got to be careful because it's super hot. And I love the avocado idea on the egg sandwich with the Canadian bacon because you have a whole mixture of carbs and protein with some healthy fat.
Yes, exactly.
It just sounds so good.
And it really, the protein really fills you up because I know I love food. I don't know who I'm trying to fool here, but I love food. But pumpkin pancakes, and we're getting to that time of year now with pumpkin pancakes. I know one time I went and I got pumpkin pancakes, and you would think, you know, I'm eating them and I'm like, oh, this should be enough. But you're hungry like an hour or two later after eating something like that. And then, so I thought, oh, I know what I did wrong. So the next time I did it, I just had turkey sausage on the side. And that really does the trick. That like protein, like really will help fill you up.
Well, since we're on the topic of eating, do you have any go-to recipes, you know, when you're running late and, you know, you're running out of time and you don't really have a plan for dinner? Are there certain things that you use as a go-to recipe for a meal?
Well, one thing, like those egg sandwiches I was talking about, I will make like maybe 3 of them and just have them in little Tupperwares that I can just grab in the morning. Cause like I know, for instance, what's today, Tuesday? I know tomorrow morning I start at 6 and I like to maybe get the dogs out a little bit before that. And although it doesn't take a lot of time to make an egg sandwich, it's easier if I have one made ahead of time so I can just zip it out and kind of nuke it up a little bit before I head out to work. So I like preparing meals ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And then one of my other favorite things that I always have is I call it the never ending salad. And you guys probably know, those bagged salads they have in the grocery store by Taylor Farms or somebody. It's like sweet kale and all that stuff. So I take one of those bags and I use that like as the base. Now I take the thing out that has like the nuts in it and the dressing, and I toss the dressing out because I'll use a different kind of dressing because I figure we don't need this. This is like abashing the whole calorie idea, right? Mix that up, and then I'll throw in like maybe a can of garbanzo beans and a can of black beans and whatever else I have in the fridge, like radishes, celery, whatever. And just so I have the never ending salad bowl, I call it. So when I get home, I can have some salad and then I can add to it like maybe a hard boiled egg, for some extra protein, or like some salmon. Like I like to cook up salmon fillets. Love those. Throw some avocado on top. And then just like Paul Newman has a really nice light balsamic, and just throw that on there. So I'm a big fan of that. And then I feel like I totally get my vegetables in. And then it's another nice mix of carbs and protein. And then if you just happen to order pizza with it, then you're not eating all pizza. So that's one thing that I do like a lot, is that like making my egg sandwiches ahead of time and just having that never ending bowl.
Nice. So you told us a little bit about your first book, that's Running with Walt. It's more of a memoir kind of book, not a how-to.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not a how-to. It's it's a memoir. It did really well. It did well. And people are like, oh my gosh, they come up and they're like, first I thought you were writing my story. I said, I know it's not a unique story. I said, I just happened to write mine down. And it's just, I guess people are really inspired by it. Like one of my friends, actually, she's on the back of the book and it said, this book has truly been an inspiration to me and continues to motivate me beyond words. And that was Trisha Fisk. She's a new runner training for her first marathon. Now, back when I had originally met her, running was the farthest thing from her mind. She's like, I can't run. And then she was actually one of the first people that I had asked to read, the rough draft when I hadn't even finished. I said, well, can you just kind of like go over this, see what you think? She goes, okay, you got to finish it. I need to know more. And I'm going to start running. I was like, okay. And actually she did.
Well, that sounds like a very inspirational book.
So she's run a couple of half marathons now, and she did do Chicago 2 years ago. She did run the Chicago Marathon. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Now, I saw that you're working on a second book.
Yes.
What's that about, and when do you expect to have that published?
I'm really slow with my writing right now, I will admit. My second book is called Running for Chanduri. And what that is, Chanduri is my oncologist.
Oh.
Dr. Chanduri. After I had my stem cell transplant in June of 16, I had, prior to that, had done this. There was a race in Chicago called the 50-50, the Lakefront 50-50. And it was a 50K or a 50 miler. And one of my friends and I had done it every year. Twice we had done 50 miles, and the other times we had done the 50K. And I said, I really want to do that race again this year. And everybody went, oh, that's really not a good idea. And I said, no, not run it, but I think we could walk it. So 5 months after my stem cell, like 6 of us went and we walked it.
Oh, wow.
So we walked the 31 miles. And when we got to the finish line, I mean, it's a smaller race, it's not like Chicago Marathon with like 42,000 people. I think it's more like 500 people. But when we got done at the finish line, people were like, because I was quite noticeable because I had this much hair,
Yeah.
And they said, we're not really sure why, but somebody told us to really clap and cheer when you got done. Why are we doing this? And I said, I had a stem cell transplant back in June and, I finished. And they're like, oh my God. And I said, do you think I said, do you think I could have a medal for my oncologist? And they're like, no. And they're handing me an extra medal going, no, but here you go. So I brought that to him. He was like, oh my God. So he's walking around showing everybody, look what she did. And people are like, oh God, we did a 5K and we were impressed with ourselves. So I kind of made a little promise to myself that every year I will bring him a minimum of one medal. Now he's got quite a few of them now, actually. But
good for you.
So
wow.
I'm like, this is the dude that keeps me running. And so he's keeping me crossing finish lines. So as long as, and he likes the medals, because I really can't imagine what it's like to be like an oncologist, Thank you. And he's like, Shawn, this means so much. It's like, we got you through another year. And I'm like, yep, we did. So now I'm training for a 50 miler that I'm going to do in a couple of weeks.
Holy smokes.
So
wow.
I'm super excited to give him that medal.
Yeah.
Wow. Where's the 50 miler?
We were going to do, it's the Hennepin Canal. It's on the west side of the state of Illinois here. And it's Sterling, Illinois is involved. We were going to do that, but back to the Running Depot now. My friend Pam and I, she's the owner of the Running Depot. We realized that everybody was doing races that week and nobody was going to be around to watch the store. We're like, oh, this isn't going to work.
That's a little problem. That probably happens a lot in a running store.
I know, right? It's like, uh-oh. So we're actually going to run. We're going to do it like they call it virtually, So we'll run, but we won't be at the race, but we're going to do the 50 miles. And we know the race director and we talked to her and she might even run part of it with us. We just can't do it on that day, but we still get our medals and shirts.
Good.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we're going to get the 50 miles done. Yeah.
If our listeners want to learn more about you, where should they go?
They could go to my website, which is myname.com, ShawnTegtmeier.com.
Great.
And your book, is your book on your website or is
it's on the website and it's also on Amazon. Actually, my website will bring you right to Amazon.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure we put the links in the show notes. Thank you so much, Shawn, for being here today. And we really appreciate talking with you.
Yes, thank you.
Oh my gosh, it's been fun.
Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
I'm amazed at how Shawn took control of her life. I think overcoming the cancer treatments and returning to running is really inspirational.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I've noticed with our different speakers is that many of them have to be patient to get to where they want to be. And Shawn really worked on that.
I lost weight during WeightWatchers or using WeightWatchers. So I liked it that Shawn was also successful with their plan.
Yeah, everyone finds what works best for them, and it's not the same for everyone. I did well with WeightWatchers for a while, but then I also went on to other things.
Yeah. After I lost the weight, I found that WeightWatchers didn't work very well for me for maintenance, and I had to shift my thoughts and focus as well.
Yeah, and Shawn sort of said that because she said she rejoined just so that she was recommending it to her clients and she wanted to know what they were actually getting. But so she's clearly not using it to maintain.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Did you notice the background noise at times in our talk today, Chris?
Yeah, I did. What was that?
It took me a little while to figure it out, but it was one of Shawn's dogs chewing on a bone or something. She said she has 2 dogs and she runs with them. Which I think is amazing.
Yeah. Wow. That's funny. Speaking of dogs, how's Penny doing?
She's doing fine. I've been taking her on some of my run walks. She did 4 miles last week and she slept the rest of the day. How's Peanut doing?
Oh, Peanut's just fine. She's sleeping a lot. She's, enjoying the cooler weather though. Definitely.
Oh, good. Well, we'll have to go for a walk again sometime with the 2 of them.
Yeah.
We would love to hear from our listeners about their thoughts on working out, maintaining weight loss, or coming back from a serious illness.
Yes, please share with us some of your stories at our website, becomingellie.com, or on any of our social media accounts. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube.
You can also email us at jill@becomingellie.com or leave us voicemail at 330-970-6662.
Be sure to join our private Facebook group where we encourage and support each other.
It was great talking with you today, Chris. I'm looking forward to our next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
I am too. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.